some of your reflections? Are those typical experiences of families? How many of you have known a child that was identified through Child Find or some other way that you had to have a conversation with a parent and say, I think that there's some delays here? Anybody? No one? Really? Wow. Okay. Do you have children in your care that you're concerned about? That maybe have a speech delay or...
We have one that we're starting right now, and I was like, I think the parents are noticing more, but they think it's just behavioral right
Okay.
now. And we don't know if it's necessarily behavioral, so like we literally just started talking to him this week, and so did the director and owner.
And it's a new family that just enrolled?
And no, he's been there for a while, but we've been trying to figure out, like, with the age, it was like he just turned 3, and I was like, a lot of it is stuff that's age appropriate, but then there's stuff that, like, it all of a sudden it's totally shut off, and like, he's totally different. He's not acting aggressively kind of thing. You can he's not getting mad or anything, but he'll like just walk up and shove somebody out of nowhere. He's totally focused, and then just walk up and shove somebody, and then he walks away.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing, and they're just trying to figure out
What's going on?
Like, he's not like trying to be mean. He's not going out of his way to like hurt the kid. It's not somebody next to him. They can be totally across the room, and all of a sudden just goes and does something like that kind of thing. But mom and dad are thinking it's behavioral, that he's just trying to be mean to everybody. I'm like, it's not necessarily that.
Well, and we know all behavior has meaning, right?
Yeah.
So there's a meaning behind it. There's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
That's our job to figure out what the reason is. So it's that function of
Yeah.
behavior. We also just started a kiddo. I'm going to move these. We just started a kiddo, and Dad came and did a tour and didn't bring the child, which always makes me nervous. And just came and did the tour by himself and was sharing that the child is 2. She has been at home with a nanny since she was born. The nanny only speaks Spanish. Parents only speak English to her, so she is bilingual. But some red flags that popped up for me is that he said that she was using lots of language, both Spanish and English, at like 18 months. And he said right around her 2nd birthday, when she turned 2, she just stopped talking. And I said, like, just wasn't talking as much. And he said, no, she literally doesn't say a single word anymore. None. Well, that's a red flag. That for sure is a red flag. So then it's a matter of, okay, that's something to kind of file away in the back of our heads. Well, then the child came on Monday for the first time, and she makes 0 eye contact. 0. And doesn't respond to her father when he calls her name or wants to say goodbye to her. There's no response. File that away. Okay, these are some red flags. So, of course, we're going to just kind of take lots of observations and notes, and because we have to build a relationship, we have to see what's normal and what's not. When I asked Dad about it, he said, I just think she's shy. And I said, but is she like that around you? Because she would be shy around strangers. But if she's not making eye contact with you, then that might be more than just being shy. So just starting to have those conversations. She only came 3 days this week, so we've only seen her 3 days. But definitely some sneaking suspicions are popping up, and then we would want to build a relationship with that family and have a conversation with them. But yeah, in the video, I mean, we have kiddos that really have families that have had experiences, pretty devastating experiences, where a doctor is telling them that their child should just be locked away. And that still happens. That still happens. There is just this process that families go through when they discover that their child might not be typically developing. I don't like to use the word normal because there's lots of different normals. But that still happens, that families, doctors, professionals, everybody has an opinion, and sometimes those opinions are really harsh about that their child won't amount to anything. I think we see it less, but I think it definitely still happens. So really looking at understanding from a family standpoint that when they discover that their child has some challenges that are going to be lifelong challenges, that really can play into the relationship and the conversations with parents, and really coming at them from a place of empathy and partnering with them, knowing that they may not have had a real positive experience around all of this. Does that make sense? So in teaming with families, there really is an emergence of social emotional competence that occurs within the context of a child's family, community, and their cultural experiences. Families interact with their children on a daily basis. Parents, by far, are the experts on their children. Even though sometimes children spend more waking hours with us and school settings than they do with their parents, we don't have the full context because we haven't been there from the first minute as parents have. And so I often hear teachers say, like, they spend more hours with me, I know their child better than the parent. No, because you weren't there at birth, you weren't there during pregnancy. There are lots of moments that we aren't there. Parents truly are experts on their children. And it's why we need to team with them. Families know their children best. They share experiences that may occur outside of the assessment environment. So if we're assessing at school, we have to know that a school environment looks different than a home environment. It's why parents say, well, they don't do that at home. It's one of those things that teachers are like, oh, please give me a break. It's very likely they don't do it at home. We have a child who bites in our 2-year-old room. Of course he doesn't bite at home. There are no other children at home to bite. So yes, he doesn't bite at home. Of course not. And so it is going to look different in a setting at school versus at home. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to an activity where we're going to dive further in, and we're going to do this all day today working with our vignettes. So we're going to break back up into our small groups that we broke up to start our vignettes. Remember, based on your age group that you work with. So we had our infants, our Todd's twos kind of group, our 3-year-old, and our school ager. And so we're going to break up into those groups, and we're going to dive into those vignettes, and we're really going to look at the planning process. So first, before I give you instructions for the activity, I want to have everybody break up into groups, and then we'll hand out the vignettes, and then I'll give you the rest of the instructions. So go ahead. We have 4 groups, but we only have 3 tables. So we may have a group actually come work over here, if you wouldn't mind. And we'll break up into those 4 groups. So go ahead. We'll do Lupe, right, is the infant? Yes. Lupe, the infant group over here. We'll do the toddler 2 group over here in this area. Remind me of their children's names first.
Are you guys already in your groups?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure so we weren't moving you around.
Yeah, no. You are in your group, okay. And then this last group over here.
So Lupe is here. And Casey or Ella? Okay, thanks. Her, join someone else's group today because they couldn't make it because of the weather.
Okay.
You guys have Maria, is that correct? Maria? Oh, no, Ella, because it's your people that aren't here. Okay, so we only have
3 groups, okay.
because the other 2 are missing. So we only need 3 tables today, so we're good.
Well, that worked out perfectly.
Absolutely.
All right. Are we all settled in? So here's what we're gonna do, and I know this might stretch people a bit out of their comfort zone, but we're in a safe space, we know each other, we've been hanging out for a month now, and so here's what we're gonna do. So first we're gonna have one person read the family story to the group from your vignette. And then at your table, you are gonna pick a parent, a provider, any extended family members if you have enough people in your group, and an observer that will take notes. Okay? And so what you're gonna do is read through that family story and have about a 10-minute conversation. So the parent and the provider are gonna have a conversation based on that family story. And your goal is to find out why the family is requesting help and identify the next steps in a referral process. Okay? Does that make sense? You have in your handouts that I just handed out, you have a discovery tool. So your discovery tool looks like you have some, looks like this. It's the second page in your handouts. It just says discovery tool cord link. So you're going to write your child's name on there from your vignette. And your goal is to have a conversation and identify the child's primary need, the strengths related to that need, and the family culture if it relates to the need. Okay? On that first page on 11.3, it gives you those instructions too, and I'm going to leave this up on the screen so that you have it to refer to. But I really want you to basically role play this, have a parent, have a provider, and then have somebody else recording based on that conversation. What are the strengths of this family? What are the family's needs? What do they need from you guys? What are they looking for help with? And then does culture play a piece in this, and if so, how and where? Do you have any questions? Okay. Go ahead and get started, and Rochelle and I are both here to help if you run into questions.